I was halfway through my evening coffee when Sarah dropped the bombshell that would unravel our entire marriage. "Mark, I need to talk to you about something important," she said, her voice carrying that particular tone I'd learned to recognize over our 8 years together. The one she used when she'd already made a decision and was just informing me as a courtesy. I set down my mug, studying her face. She looked nervous but also strangely excited, like a kid who'd gotten away with something. "What's up? You remember David, right? My ex from college?" She didn't wait for my response. "He and his wife have been trying to have a baby for years, but she can't carry to term. They're desperate, Mark. They've been through 3 miscarriages." I felt a cold sensation creeping up my spine. "Okay." They asked me to be their surrogate. She said it quickly, like ripping off a bandage, and I said yes. The silence that followed felt like it lasted forever. I blinked, processing her words, trying to find the logic in what I just heard. "You said yes? Without talking to me first? I knew you'd try to talk me out of it," she said defensively. "This is my body, Mark. It's my decision. Your body that you share a bed with me in? Your body that's part of our marriage?" I kept my voice level, but my mind was racing. "When did they ask you?" "A few months ago. I wanted to be sure before I told you." "A few months?" The coldness spread through my chest. "You've been planning this for months?" Sarah reached across the table, but I pulled my hand back. "It's just 9 months, Mark. We'll get through it. They're even paying me, us, $50,000. That's when I knew. It hit me like a freight train. The late nights she'd claimed were work dinners. The new lingerie I'd found in her drawer that she'd never worn for me. The way she'd been distant for the past 6 months, always on her phone, always smiling at texts she never let me see. "How far along are you?" I asked quietly. She froze. "What? You heard me. How far along are you right now?" We haven't started the process yet. I just wanted to tell you first." I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. "Don't lie to me, Sarah. You're glowing. You've been nauseous in the mornings. You've stopped drinking wine with dinner. How far along?" Her face crumbled. 12 weeks, she whispered. "But Mark, I swear it's exactly what I said. I'm carrying David's baby as a surrogate. They did IVF and—" "Stop." I held up my hand. "Just stop talking." I walked to our bedroom, my legs moving on autopilot while my brain tried to process this betrayal. Surrogate? The word tasted bitter in my mind. She really thought I was that stupid? I pulled out my phone and started searching for divorce attorneys. Then I stopped. If I played this wrong, she'd get half of everything I'd built. The business I'd started from nothing, the house I'd bought before we married, everything. And she'd have child support from me, even for another man's baby, depending on how the courts saw it since we were married when it was born. No, I needed to be smart about this. I needed evidence. I needed time. And most importantly, I needed her to believe I was buying her ridiculous story. I walked back to the kitchen where Sarah sat crying. I took a deep breath and sat down across from her. "Okay," I said softly. "I'm sorry I reacted badly. This is just a lot to take in." She looked up, hope flooding her eyes. "You understand?" "I'm trying to." I reached across and took her hand this time. "I need to know everything. About the surrogacy agreement, the medical procedures, all of it. If we're going to do this, we need to be on the same page." She squeezed my hand, relief washing over her face. "Oh, Mark, thank you. Thank you for understanding. I have all the paperwork in my office. I'll show you everything." "Good," I said, forcing a smile. "Let's see it." As she rushed off to get her fabricated documents, I sat there, my mind cold and calculating. She wanted to play games? Fine. But this game would have rules, my rules. And by the time I was done, she and her ex would learn what happens when you underestimate the man you betrayed. The paperwork Sarah showed me was impressively detailed for a complete fabrication. A surrogacy agreement, medical forms from a fertility clinic, even a payment schedule. She'd put real effort into this lie, see? She said, spreading the documents across our dining table. "It's all legitimate. David and Jennifer are so grateful." I nodded, taking photos of everything with my phone while pretending to read carefully. "This clinic, Dr. Morrison's office, they did the IVF procedure." "Yes, 3 weeks ago." "Well, technically 12 weeks ago, but who's counting?" She laughed nervously at her own slip. I let it slide, making a note on my phone. "And David and Jennifer signed all this?" "Of course. Their lawyer drew everything up. Mind if I have our lawyer look at it, just to make sure we're protected?" Her smile faltered. "Why would we need that?" Sarah, this involves our family for 9 months and $50,000. I'd be irresponsible not to have it reviewed. I kept my tone reasonable, caring even. Sure, that makes sense. That night, after Sarah went to bed, I sat in my home office and started making calls. My old college roommate James was now a private investigator. We'd kept in touch over the years, meeting for beers every few months. Mark, it's almost midnight. Everything okay? No, I need your help and I need complete discretion. I told him everything. The supposed surrogacy, my suspicions, the timeline that didn't add up. When I finished, James was quiet for a moment. You want me to tail her? Her and David, I need evidence. Photos, videos, whatever you can get. But James, they can't know. If Sarah suspects anything, she'll bolt and I'll lose my advantage. Consider it done. Send me everything you have, photos, addresses, phone numbers. I'll start tomorrow. My next call was to Richard Chen, the best divorce attorney in the state. His retainer was $15,000, but he was worth every penny. We met at his office the next morning while Sarah thought I was at a business meeting. The surrogacy angle is interesting, Richard said, reviewing the photos I'd taken of her documents. If you can prove the baby is the result of an affair, rather than a legitimate surrogacy arrangement, she's committing fraud. That changes everything. How? In this state, if she's trying to pass off an affair baby as a surrogacy arrangement for financial gain, that's fraudulent misrepresentation. The court won't look kindly on that. Plus, if we can prove the affair started before she got pregnant, we might be able to get the marriage annulled or at least contest any claims she makes to marital property. What do I need? Everything. Financial records showing if money actually changed hands for the surrogacy, medical records proving when she got pregnant and how, evidence of the affair, communication between her and David. The more damning, the better. I nodded. Give me 2 weeks. Back at home, I played the supportive husband perfectly. I asked Sarah about her prenatal appointments. I talked about how we'd convert the guest room into a nursery for the time being. I even suggested we invite David and his wife, Jennifer, over for dinner. To get to know them better, I explained. If we're doing this together, we should be a team, right? Sarah's face went pale. That's sweet, Mark, but I don't think that's necessary. Why not? They're going to be part of our lives for the next 6 months. Besides, I'd like to meet Jennifer, talk to her about what she's going through. She's very private about the fertility issues. I don't think she'd be comfortable. Then just David, guy time. I could take him out for beers, talk about how we're going to support you through this. Sarah's hands trembled slightly as she picked up her coffee mug. Maybe later. Let's just focus on getting through the first trimester. Perfect. She was afraid to let me near David. That told me everything I needed to confirm my suspicions. James called 3 days later. You were right. I've got them, my heart pounded. Tell me. They're not even trying to hide it. Yesterday, David picked her up from that coffee shop on Maple Street. The one she told you was a prenatal yoga class. They drove to the Riverside Hotel, stayed for 2 hours. I got photos of them going in, kissing in the parking lot, the works. Send everything to my encrypted email. Already done. Mark, there's more. I checked the fertility clinic she mentioned, Dr. Morrison's office. Yeah? It exists, but they have no record of Sarah being a patient. I had a friend who works there check discreetly. No Sarah Reynolds, no surrogacy agreement, nothing. I closed my eyes, feeling the rage burn through me, but I pushed it down, locked it away. Rage was useless. Cold calculation was what I needed now. Keep digging. I want 6 months of their movements, phone records if you can get them, financial transactions, everything. You got it. That evening I came home with flowers and Sarah's favorite takeout. She looked surprised and guilty all at once. What's this for? For being amazing, I said, kissing her cheek. For doing this incredible thing for your friends. I was being selfish before, thinking about how this affects me, but you're giving them the greatest gift possible. She teared up, and I wondered if any part of her felt guilty for what she was doing to me. Probably not. I love you, she whispered. I love you too, I lied, holding her close. We're going to get through this together. 3 weeks later, I had everything I needed. James had been thorough, painfully thorough. Photos of Sarah and David at hotels across the city, always on the days she claimed to have work events or prenatal appointments. Text messages James had obtained through less than legal means, but I didn't care. Screenshots of money transfers from David to Sarah that predated her surrogacy announcement by 6 months. $500 here, $300 there, small enough not to trigger questions. But the smoking gun came from an unexpected source. Jennifer, David's actual wife. I'd hired a second investigator to look into David, and we discovered something interesting. Jennifer had filed for divorce 2 months ago. The papers cited adultery, and she'd hired her own PI who'd been documenting David's affair with Sarah for over a year. Jennifer and I needed to talk. We met at a coffee shop 3 towns over, far from anyone who might know us. She was a petite woman with tired eyes and a hardness around her mouth that spoke of recent pain. "Thank you for meeting me," I said. "Your investigator said you had information about my ex-husband's affair partner." She stirred her coffee mechanically. "I assume you're married to her?" 8 years. I showed her my wedding ring. Until I found out 3 weeks ago. The surrogacy story? She laughed bitterly. "Let me guess, she's carrying his baby and told you it's a legitimate surrogacy arrangement?" My stomach dropped. "You knew?" "Oh, I've known for months. David's not nearly as clever as he thinks. I found hotel receipts, text messages about her, helping them have a baby. The stupid part? I can't even have children. I had a hysterectomy 4 years ago due to cancer. There was never any miscarriage, no fertility struggles, no desperate desire for a surrogate. It was all his fantasy, and your wife went along with it. I felt like I'd been punched. I'm sorry. Don't be. I'm getting everything in the divorce. The house, his retirement, half his business. His lawyer tried to fight it, but my evidence was airtight." She pulled out a folder, "Which is why I'm here. I want to help you." She slid the folder across the table. Inside were copies of everything, text messages between David and Sarah planning their affair, talking about the baby, discussing how they'd eventually leave their spouses once the time was right. Financial records showing David had paid for Sarah's new car, jewelry, expensive dinners. Photos that made my hands shake. "Why are you giving me this?" "Because David deserves to pay for what he's done, and so does your wife. The divorce will hurt him financially, but it won't touch her. You have a chance to make sure she faces consequences too." Jennifer's eyes were hard. "Also, David's been bragging to his friends that once the baby comes, he'll have leverage. He thinks he can get partial custody, which means he'd have legal access to your life through your wife indefinitely. Unless I divorce her first and prove the fraud." "Exactly. My attorney suggested I reach out. Said we might be able to coordinate our divorces in a way that maximizes damage to both of them." I smiled for the first time in weeks. "I like how you think." We spent 2 hours planning. Jennifer's divorce was already in motion, but she agreed to delay the final hearing until I could file my own paperwork. Her attorney would share evidence with mine. We'd present a united front that would demolish any chance David or Sarah had of spinning this situation. "There's one more thing," I said as we prepared to leave. "The baby." Jennifer's expression softened slightly. "What about it?" "Sarah's convinced me it's David's, but I need to be sure it's not mine. The timeline is close enough that there's a possibility. Get a prenatal paternity test. David's going to be forced to take one in my divorce proceedings anyway. If the baby's his, he'll be on the hook for child support while married to neither of you." "If it's yours," she paused. "Well, that's something you'll have to decide." The thought made me sick. But she was right. That evening, I came home to find Sarah cooking dinner, a rare occurrence lately. She was humming, rubbing her slightly rounded belly, looking content. "Hey, honey," she called. "I'm making your favorite. Pot roast, smells great." I hung up my coat, playing my part. "How was your day?" "Good, I had a checkup." "Baby's healthy." She smiled at me. "Doctor says I'm right on track." "That's wonderful. Listen, I've been thinking." She tensed almost imperceptibly. "About what?" "About the future. About what happens after the baby's born." I walked up behind her, wrapping my arms around her waist. She stiffened but didn't pull away. "I want to make sure we're protected. That David and Jennifer honor the agreement. That the $50,000 comes through. That we have legal recourse if anything goes wrong. Everything will be fine, Mark." "I know, but humor me. Let me have Richard review the surrogacy contract. Let's make sure all the medical documentation is in order. Maybe even have a DNA test done before the birth, just to confirm everything matches what's supposed to be in the surrogacy agreement. Standard procedure for these kinds of arrangements." I felt her entire body go rigid. "A DNA test?" "Sure. Don't surrogacy agreements usually include them? To confirm the embryo transfer worked and the baby is genetically the intended parents?" I kept my voice casual, innocent. "I read about it online. Seems like smart protection for everyone involved." Sarah pulled away, turning to face me. Her face was flushed, eyes wide. That's not necessary. We trust each other. Of course we trust each other. But this is a legal contract worth $50,000. David and Jennifer would probably want confirmation too, right? I mean, what if, God forbid, something went wrong with the IVF process? What if there was a mix-up at the clinic? These things happen. They don't happen. But they could. I tilted my head, watching her squirm. Unless there's a reason you don't want a DNA test? No, It's invasive. It's unnecessary. Everything's fine. Then there's no problem with doing it. In fact, I'll call Dr. Morrison's office tomorrow and set it up. Should be simple, right? Mark, unless... I let the word hang in the air. Unless there's something you're not telling me. She was trapped and she knew it. If she refused the DNA test, I'd know for certain. If she agreed, the truth would come out anyway. Fine, she said finally, her voice tight. We'll do the test. If it makes you feel better. It does. I kissed her forehead. I love you, Sarah. I just want to make sure we're doing everything right. That night, I lay awake next to her, listening to her restless breathing. She was panicking, probably texting David, trying to figure out how to handle this new development. The DNA test results came back on a Wednesday. I'd had them sent directly to Richard's office rather than our home. When I read them, sitting in his conference room, I felt absolutely nothing, just a vast empty coldness. 99.9% probability that David Morrison is the biological father, Richard read aloud. No genetic relationship to you whatsoever, Morrison. I looked up. David's last name is Morrison? Yes, why? I started laughing, a harsh, bitter sound. Dr. Morrison's office. The fertility clinic she claimed to use. She just used his last name. She didn't even try to make up a fake doctor. She thought I was that stupid. Richard's expression was grim. This gives us everything we need. Combined with the financial records, the testimony from Jennifer, the photos from your investigator, and now genetic proof that this baby isn't from any surrogacy arrangement, she's done. What's next? You file for divorce today. We include all evidence of fraud, adultery, and misrepresentation. We request she receive nothing from the marriage. We also file for an emergency hearing to prevent her from accessing joint accounts or marital assets. And here's the best part. We loop in the DA's office. Criminal charges? Fraud, potentially. She's been accepting money from you under false pretenses related to this pregnancy. She's fraudulently represented the nature of the surrogacy arrangement. Depending on how aggressive the DA wants to be, she could face charges. I signed the papers. All of them. Divorce filing, asset protection, everything. When does she get served? Tomorrow morning. I'd recommend you not be home. I'll be in my office. That night I came home to find Sarah on the couch looking pale and anxious. She'd been like this for the 2 weeks since I'd suggested the DNA test, constantly checking her phone, barely eating, dark circles under her eyes. Mark, she said as I walked in. We need to talk. About what? I sat down across from her, not beside her like I used to. I haven't been completely honest with you. Too late, I thought. But I said, about what? She started crying. Big heaving sobs that might have moved me a month ago. The surrogacy. It's not exactly a traditional surrogacy arrangement, meaning, David and I, we were together before, years ago, and we reconnected and things happened and... She looked up at me, mascara running down her face. I'm so sorry, Mark, I never meant for this to happen. It just did. But I love you, I do. I made a mistake, but we can get through this. I stood up. No, we can't. Mark, please, and the baby is David's, from an affair, not from any surrogacy arrangement. You've been lying to me for months. You've been sleeping with him for over a year. I watched her face go white. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? How did I know? Sarah, you're not nearly as clever as you think you are. Dr. Morrison's office? Really? You used his last name for your fake fertility clinic. She stood up, shaking. It's not fake. The surrogacy agreement is worthless paper. There's no Dr. Morrison's fertility clinic. There's no Jennifer desperately wanting a baby because she can't even have children, Sarah. She had a hysterectomy 4 years ago. There were no miscarriages, no IVF, no desperate couple. Just you and David lying to your spouses and thinking you'd get away with it. Sarah sank back onto the couch. Oh God. Jennifer's divorcing him.
She's taking everything.
And tomorrow morning, you're going to be served with divorce papers too. I'm taking the house that I bought before we married. My business that you had nothing to do with building, and you're getting nothing. Nothing except David's baby and the legal consequences of fraud. You can't do this. I already did. I have photos of you and David at hotels. Text messages talking about your affair. Financial records of him paying for your things. And most importantly, I have DNA test results proving that baby isn't from any legitimate surrogacy arrangement. It's the product of adultery and fraud. I'll fight this. I'll get a lawyer. Good luck with that. Because here's what's going to happen next. David's going to be forced to take a paternity test as part of Jennifer's divorce. When it confirms he's the father of your baby, he's going to be on the hook for child support. 18 years of it. The court's going to look at the fake surrogacy agreement you created, the lies you told, and they're going to destroy you. I walked to the bedroom and grabbed the suitcase I'd packed earlier. I'm staying at a hotel tonight. Tomorrow you're going to be served. I suggest you call David and let him know his life is about to implode too. Mark, please. She grabbed my arm. We can work this out. The baby is not my problem. I pulled away. That's David's child. David's responsibility. You want to play house with him? Great. He can cover the child support too. I left her crying on our couch, walked out of the house I'd bought with my own money, and drove away. I didn't look back. The next morning, I was in a meeting with a potential client when Richard texted me. Papers served. She's not taking it well. Her mother called my office screaming. Also got a call from David's attorney. He's panicking. I smiled and put my phone away. Good. Let them panic. 3 months later, I sat in a courtroom watching my marriage officially end. Sarah looked terrible, swollen with pregnancy, dark circles under her eyes, wearing a cheap dress that didn't quite fit. Her attorney, a bargain basement divorce lawyer she could barely afford, shuffled papers nervously. David sat on the other side of the courtroom with his own attorney, pointedly not looking at Sarah. Jennifer had already cleaned him out in their divorce. He'd lost his house, half his business, and his reputation. Word had spread through their social circles about the affair, and former friends had cut ties. Now he was facing child support for a baby he'd conceived during an affair while still married. Judge Patricia Okonkwo reviewed the evidence with a stern expression. The photos, the text messages, the fake surrogacy documents, the DNA test results, all of it laid bare in legal language. Mrs. Reynolds, the judge said, looking at Sarah over her glasses, do you have anything to say for yourself? Sarah stood shakily. Your Honor, I made mistakes. I admit that. But I don't deserve to lose everything. 8 years of marriage should count for something. 8 years during which you conducted an affair, created fraudulent documents to cover up that affair, and attempted to pass off your affair partner's child as part of a legitimate surrogacy arrangement? The judge's voice was ice. Mrs. Reynolds, you didn't just commit adultery. You committed fraud. The court does not look kindly on fraud. But the house belongs to Mr. Reynolds. He purchased it before your marriage. His business, which he built himself, also remains his. The court finds no grounds for you to receive any portion of the marital assets given the evidence of fraud and your breach of the marital contract. Sarah started crying. I have a baby coming. I need somewhere to live. Then I suggest you speak with Mr. Morrison about that, as he is the child's father. Judge Okonkwo turned to David. Mr. Morrison, stand up. David stood, looking like he wanted to disappear. The court has reviewed the paternity test results. You are the biological father of Mrs. Reynolds' unborn child. Once the child is born, you will be ordered to pay child support according to state guidelines. Given your income, I estimate that will be approximately $2,000 per month until the child reaches 18 years of age. David went pale. Your Honor, I'm already paying my ex-wife. Yes, I'm aware of your other financial obligations. That's not this court's concern. You fathered a child through an extramarital affair. You are responsible for that child's support. She signed the divorce decree with a flourish. Marriage dissolved. Mr. Reynolds, you are free to go. I walked out of that courtroom feeling lighter than I had in months. Sarah tried to follow me, calling my name, but I didn't stop. Her attorney caught her, probably explaining what happened next. The investigation the DA's office had opened into her fraudulent surrogacy documents, the debt she now carried from her failed legal defense, the reality of being a single mother with no job and no support system. Richard caught up with me in the parking lot. That went well. Better than well. I shook his hand. Thank you. My pleasure. It's not often we get such clear-cut cases of fraud. He paused. What will you do now? Move on. I'm selling the house. Too many bad memories. I've got my eye on a condo downtown, closer to the office. I looked back at the courthouse, and I'm going to rebuild my life without her in it. 6 months later, I heard through mutual acquaintances that Sarah had given birth to a boy. David was fighting the child support order, but the court wasn't budging. He saw his son every other weekend grudgingly, while Sarah struggled to make ends meet in a small apartment on the outskirts of town. Her mother had helped for a while, but even that relationship was strained after the truth came out. Her friends, the ones who'd been our friends, had taken sides, and most chose mine. Sarah had burned too many bridges with her lies. I, on the other hand, was thriving. My business had grown 20% in 6 months. I'd started dating again. Nothing serious yet, but it was nice to meet people who didn't lie to my face. I'd joined a gym, picked up my old guitar, reconnected with friends I'd neglected during my marriage. Jennifer and I met for coffee occasionally. We'd formed an odd friendship through our shared betrayal and coordinated revenge. She was thriving too, running her own business now, traveling, living her best life. You know what the best part is? She said during one of our meetings. David thought he was going to leave me for Sarah and start this perfect new life. Instead, he lost everything, pays me alimony, pays her child support, and they can't even stand to be in the same room together now. They destroyed their own fantasy. Karma, I said, raising my coffee cup. Karma, she agreed, clinking hers against mine. The last time I saw Sarah was completely by accident. I was at the grocery store late on a Tuesday evening when I spotted her in the baby aisle. She was thinner than I remembered, tired-looking, with her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. A baby carrier sat in her cart, and I could see a small bundle inside. She saw me, too. For a moment, we just stared at each other across the aisle. Mark, she said finally. Sarah, how are you? Good, you? She laughed bitterly. Living the dream. She glanced down at her baby. It's harder than I thought it would be. Being alone? I could have said something cruel. Part of me wanted to. But looking at her, really looking at her, I just felt tired. Tired of the anger, the betrayal, all of it. I hope it gets easier for you, I said, and I meant it. Not because I'd forgiven her, but because holding on to hate was exhausting, and she'd already paid for what she'd done. Mark, I'm sorry. For everything. I know it doesn't change anything, but you're right. It doesn't change anything. I pushed my cart forward. Take care of yourself, Sarah, and your son. I walked away, leaving her in that aisle with the baby she'd conceived through lies and the life she'd destroyed with her choices. I didn't look back. Because here's what I learned through all of this. The best revenge isn't anger or hatred or making someone suffer. The best revenge is living well. It's building a life so good that the person who betrayed you becomes irrelevant to it. It's moving forward while they're stuck dealing with the consequences of their actions. Sarah wanted to play games. She wanted to have her affair, keep her marriage, and somehow come out ahead. Instead, she lost everything. Her marriage, her home, her friends, her future. David paid child support and alimony to 2 different women while living in a small apartment, his business barely surviving after Jennifer's divorce settlement. And me? I was free. Free from the lies, free from the betrayal, free from a marriage that had been dying long before I discovered the affair. I had my business, my health, my future stretching out ahead of me, full of possibilities. 3 years later, I married again. Emily was everything Sarah wasn't. Honest, straightforward, someone who communicated instead of manipulated. Our wedding was small, just close friends and family, held at a vineyard in the countryside. Richard attended, as did Jennifer, who'd become one of Emily's good friends. We toasted to new beginnings and lessons learned the hard way. I never saw Sarah again after that day in the grocery store. I heard through the grapevine that she'd moved to another state trying to start fresh. David eventually remarried too, though by all accounts he was still financially recovering from his twin divorces. Sometimes people ask me if I regret how I handled everything. If I wish I'd confronted them differently, or tried to work things out, or taken the high road instead of orchestrating their downfall. My answer is always the same. I regret nothing. Sarah and David made their choices. They lied, cheated, and tried to manipulate everyone around them. They deserved exactly what they got. But more than that, their betrayal gave me something unexpected. It gave me clarity. It showed me what I truly valued, what I wouldn't tolerate, and what kind of life I wanted to build. It taught me that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the catalyst for the best thing that ever happened to you. So no, I don't regret playing the game they started. I regret only that I didn't see who Sarah really was sooner, but once I did, I played to win, and I did. Every single day I wake up in my life, my honest, drama-free, peaceful life, and I'm grateful for the bullet I dodged. Grateful that Sarah's lie was exposed before I wasted more years on her. Grateful that I was smart enough, patient enough, and strategic enough to come out on top. They say living well is the best revenge. They're right. But sometimes making sure the people who wronged you face consequences while you live well, that's even better. And I was living very, very well indeed.